All right, YouTube. This Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. It's Thursday the 2nd. We're going to talk about what's going on with these protests again. We talked about it yesterday. Now, if you're new to this channel, please become a member because this channel is more than just podcasting. It's a community. And we use the term we the people. And to people who may not be familiar, I want to tell you where the term comes from. So bear with me for a second while I read something to you. Check this out. This is the United States Constitution and Declaration of Independence. Let me read it to you. The Constitution of the United States of America, 1787. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America. So, when we say we the people, we're talking about our citizenship, our rights, you know what I mean? Our God-given rights to secure benefits and have a more productive and secure life. What you're seeing in this country right now is the undermining of not only the Constitution, but the undermining of the citizens. You know, we're being flooded with illegal immigrants. We're being bombarded with foreign nationals who have allegiance to other countries while demanding rights over here, while we suffer. You know what I mean? While they continue to cut unemployment and make our lives harder, make our dollars worth less. So, at what point, as citizens, do we become aware so that we can be prepared? See, if you're not aware, you can't be prepared of what's going on. Yesterday, I talked to you guys and we looked at the video about what went on in New York at Columbia University. Overnight, it intensified and escalated like they have been talking about. Now it's at UCLA. Now, the escalation is becoming more and more violent, more and more looking like anarchy with the students. Now, these students are in an uproar about what's going on thousands of miles away from this country. And the government is saying that they have provocateurs amongst them, you know, foreign agents amongst them, professional agitators among them, leading the way. But the government let them in. The government is so good at spying on us and figuring out what we can do, sending the IRS after us and taxing us and changing laws to the point to where the only people who are being oppressed are the citizens. And we may ask is, why is this? Who would allow this? Who would allow this undermining of the citizens? I'm gonna leave that to you to decide because we're not gonna point fingers because we already know the borders is supposed to be secured. We already know that us as citizens are entitled to certain rights. We already know that the Constitution is being undermined. But I'm not gonna just sit up here and talk y'all ear off. I want to show y'all what happened overnight in UCLA. This is for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Look what happened while you guys were sleeping.
Overnight, UCLA beginning its crackdown on the campus's pro-Palestinian encampment. Police in riot gear moving in early this morning.
All right, police in riot gear right now. You hear the flashbangs there, but the police, they are
breaching the barrier, trying to make their way into the encampment. The students, though, they're pushing back and trying to hold the line. Protesters clashing with the police, at one point seeming to push them away from the encampment. Many of the protesters have refused to leave until their demands that the university divest from Israel are met. Yesterday, violence broke out between rival protest groups after counter-protesters stormed the encampment. The university facing criticism for failing to prevent the fighting. The governor's office calling the law enforcement response unacceptable. It comes as across the country, campus confrontations are increasing. Protests focused on the conflict in the Middle East have impacted more than 60 campuses in recent weeks. Universities struggling with how to respond. Just one day after NYPD officers made more than 100 arrests at Columbia University, where protesters had taken over a building on campus.
I saw students being dragged out of there in handcuffs, the blockade, the human chain that was outside of it being cleared.
Hours later, Columbia's president visiting the damaged building, writing, "I am sorry we reached this point." Nearly 100 students from Yale protested outside the home of that university's president after he called for civility. The wave of activism generating a backlash from students with different viewpoints who say they're being harassed and barred from moving freely around campus.
I have my ID right here. I'm being blocked off.
Eli Seavey is a pro-Israel student at UCLA, posting this video of what he says were protesters not allowing him to access a pathway near an encampment.
They themselves would decide who can enter and who cannot. I said, no, absolutely not.
Okay, and just to show you guys how fast things are unfolding, just moments ago, another wave of law enforcement have flooded in here now. They are now continuing to take down the rest of this barricade here. You can see it's very much unfolding. They're pushing over the plywood. And I will say earlier today, as these protesters started getting wind that potentially this was going to happen, they began fortifying this encampment. And they were putting on gas masks. You hear the flashbangs there. They have hard hats on. They are very organized and prepared. But again, law enforcement here with a clear mission to come in and take down this encampment. There are hundreds of students that are in there right now, vowing not to leave. We have seen students be detained already. We haven't heard reports of injuries, but I have to tell you, it is tense when you see the clashes between the protesters and the law enforcement right now as they are pushing their way in to campus. This is one of the most famous plazas at UCLA as well, Royce Hall right here. Class is canceled. It is midterms week here at UCLA. This is unfolding right now, and it's honestly wild to see in real time as hundreds of police officers storm the encampment here on campus. And let this play out, you guys. So you're seeing this unfold. We're going to get out of the way. And again, very tense scene here right now. I'm going to send it back to you, Hoda.
Yeah, this looks like it's the moment where the police are physically removing everything and moving in. You said there'd been some students detained. Liz, what have you seen in that realm?
Hoda, I'm sorry, it's so loud here. Could you ask me that again? I can't hear it.
I was just asking about the students who've been detained. Like, are the law enforcement making progress? It looks like they've been at this point for a while here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of the comments that's coming in over here. One of them is, why did the university allow the encampment in the first place? Why did they let them set up a base? Then another comment is, the police response is not acceptable. The governor is unacceptable, needs to be removed. Counter protesters who arrived after dark and carrying sticks and bear spray didn't come to counter protest. What do you think you're really seeing? Because at this point, we're not even talking about the immigrant crisis. We're not even talking about the crime that's overrunning the urban communities and major cities. Now we're focused on this situation, which is consistently escalating. I mean, do you turn your blind eye or you act like it's not happening? Or do you try to figure out what is the origin of this civil unrest? You know, they like to compare it to the 60s and the civil rights movement. This is something totally different. And that's why the protest looks different. In the 60s and early 70s, civil rights was about Americans striving for equality in this country and doing like the Constitution says, trying to build a more perfect union. This is something different. And we have to acknowledge this is something different. There's no comparison to the two.
Yeah, sorry guys, it's so loud with these loud things. It's hard for me to hear. This is a boiling point that we've seen. I will say, yesterday morning was really the tipping point when counter protesters, pro-Israel counter protesters, showed up here and got into confrontations with these students, and we saw violence unfold overnight. The governor got involved. The mayor of Los Angeles. There is scrutiny right now about how UCLA let it get to this point that we are seeing this unfold right now. They had tried to let students have a protest. They were trying not to bring law enforcement in like we've seen on other campuses, but it let that encampment grow and grow and grow to a point that we're now at this, guys.
All right, Liz Croyt, at your post. Keep us posted, Liz. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Now think about it. They chant over there in the Middle East and they protest gets out of hand and turns into armed conflict. They have brought their war to our country. And a lot of people may say, well, if you're a black person and you're uneducated, this isn't our country. We're not representing the Constitution. Yes, we are. That's what the 14th Amendment was. And a lot of black people were already here. This is our country. Black Americans and white Americans and anybody who comes to this country legally, and takes their oath, becomes a citizen. But even that's funny because who is raised and born in one country where their ancestors are buried in that country, and then they come and they pledge allegiance to another country? I never even trusted that because I would, if they're so intelligent, why didn't they stay in their own countries and make their own countries better? What makes America think that they have to be the global police? You know what I mean? Or maybe it's a global partnership in undermining all citizens. So we look at this country and it's divided. They like to talk about conservatives dividing the country. We haven't seen the country this divided in decades. We haven't seen the citizens and students this agitated in decades. All right before an election. All because of what's going on in the Middle East. And like I said yesterday, what's going on in the Middle East has been happening since before I was born. And who is this government to really even be involved? So we're watching the destruction of our society for reasons that have nothing to do with us. I look at other pundits or so-called activists who want to insert themselves in this conflict, but that has to be for monetary gain. It's not for the well-being of the citizens here because we don't have a dog in this fight. They even be raising up the name of Martin Luther King, resurrecting his image as if this is not something new that we're witnessing. That's why on this channel, all the members of this channel, they need this book. You need to understand what your rights are. You need to understand what this country is about. You know what I mean? And like really, if people are so dissatisfied and disgruntled, passports are easy to get. You know what I mean? And I'm not telling anybody to leave or whatever, but I'm just saying at a certain point, What's your end game? What's your goal in all of this? And where is it going? Because just yesterday, you seen the mayor of New York saying this is escalating, and they inserting all these gaslighting words, you know, ominous predictions, and it's not even summer yet. So if you're not a member yet of this channel, become a member. Like, share, and subscribe, because on a whole nother level, YouTube is not really going to push these videos because it's not entertaining enough. It's too informative. And I would suggest that some of you guys go to the community section and look up the movie I got put up in there, 1984, and look at some of the information that's in that. It's 9:25. Enjoy the rest of your morning. I'll keep you posted. Signing out, Detroit. Peace. Keep y'all head on the swivel. Salute to all patriots. Peace.